Good morning and welcome to the Career Sessions with Tracy and myself, where we hear everyday people's career journeys. And today I'm delighted to introduce Alex. Alexander Wilson and I, so we met, I actually looked back this morning, I think it was 2015 we met.
It was.
It was at a country house hotel locally to us, and you were working there, and I did like a 5-month contract there in HR. So we met, and it's been nice because we kept in touch. And obviously I've seen your career journey go since then. So I'm really interested to hear what you've been up to since we last saw each other, and to hear the kind of the story from the very start as well.
Yeah, of course. Shall I go and start from the beginning?
Yeah.
Lovely. So my career I've been in hospitality now for since the age of 15. That's where it all began. And I started my career in the kitchen. So I was a home cook, cooking lots of cakes and bakes and lots of nice food at home from GCSE food when I was at school. And when I was back at school, there was a really good competition that was run by Springboard, which is the hospitality charity for young people. They have the Future Chef competition, which they've been doing for many years now, goes back 20, 25 plus years. So I entered that competition in 2005 and became a regional finalist for Future Chef for the Southeast. So didn't quite make it to the national final, but it really sparked my passion for food and wanting to go and work in a kitchen, get some more experience. So when I left school, I went to a little bit further up the A3 from Hampshire into Surrey, and went to Guildford College, and I did my BTEC diploma. It was then. I didn't really want to do any A levels because nothing else really interested me. So did my BTEC in catering, and I did a mixture of front of house and kitchen and back of house, and it was a really all-round course. A little bit in finance, operations, events, business management, entrepreneurship. So it was a really valuable course, and I still keep in contact with lots of people from the college who have retired as lecturers, and I've got a friend still from my college days that I'm going to a wedding at the end of July. We've still kept in contact with. So nice. It was a really good couple of years, really, and I've got some fond memories of Guildford College. And then when I was there, we had to do some work experience, and I went to work at Claridge's in Mayfair. So I spent 3 months of my summer in the heat of London, in the heat of the kitchen, working mainly spent a lot of time in larder and in the sauce section of the kitchen, and then I had spent my last couple of weeks in pastry, which was amazing, to go and work with all the bakers and all the pastry chefs making all their lovely afternoon tea pastries and the sandwiches and all the different fruit displays for the bedrooms and the suites. It was amazing. Really
wonderful. So much better than any work experience I've ever heard of before, in all fairness. Like most people I got sent to an auctioneer's and stickered stuff for 3 weeks. So that's pretty amazing.
I think the thing about that, it was very even though I was still only 16, it was a very structured work experience. It was really well thought out. There was a proper program put in place about who I'd be working with and who I'd be assigned with and what progress I'd have to meet every week. And I think these days there's probably not as much detail that goes into that, into investing in a young person at the age of 16. I mean, to go into that length of detail for those 3 months, and okay, it was unpaid, but it was a great time.
It's interesting as well, Alex. You clearly knew from quite a young age what you wanted to do. Well, it sounds like it.
Yeah, I mean, when I was at, if I think back to when I was 14, 15, I had no clue what I wanted to do really before, that Future Chef almost like fell in my lap really, with what I wanted to do. And I think by having a very inspiring teacher when you're at school, and for me, that was a lady called Sylvia Boddington, and she was my food teacher. And she was the one that really inspired me to really work hard and push on and really make a career of it and make a go of it. And she used to drive me to these competitions and really support me. So, and I think when you've got a person like that that's backing you, it has a huge impact on you.
Yeah, that's great.
That is, that's amazing.
So that was like the start, I suppose, of my career journey. And then so after those 3 months at Claridge's, I thought, well, I don't really want to work in a kitchen anymore. I think it kind of sealed that I had a bit more knowledge and skills that I wanted to develop further. And I wanted to move more front of house and work in operations in F&B and rooms. So I decided then, after completing my BTEC, where I got triple distinction, by the way, just want to make that known. I did my degree. I went to do my degree at University of Surrey.
Yeah.
So I chose Surrey because at the time, and it still is, the best university in the country for hospitality and tourism.
Yes.
I think number 4 or 5 in Europe, number 8 or 9 in the world. So it's still got a very strong reputation for business and hospitality.
Yeah.
So I started there in 2008. Was quite daunted by that experience because I think it was quite overwhelming going from quite a small college up to a campus with 15,000 students on it. It was it's almost like its own little city at Surrey. So I spent 4 years there working through the different levels and lots of different modules and courses, and then I decided in my 3rd year you could choose whether you went on an industrial placement. So after lots of application and reviewing of different jobs and things and hotels and whether I wanted to go overseas, stay in the UK, there was this job advert that just popped up on the university job webpage, which was to work in the royal household. So I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. Go and look after go and look after the Queen for a bit,
Do your duty. That's the thing.
Yeah, I love it. You started in a high.
I think a lot of people still say that I probably peaked in my career at the age of 19.
Marriages for work experience and then they're all household.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was like, don't need to work anymore. I've done it. So I was very successful in getting on that placement program. 350 applicants, down to 6 for assessment day, which was over 2 days, and then lots of practical exercises, some written exams, and then it came down to the final interview with the master of the household, which is like the general manager of what would be in a hotel. And then I started there in July of 2010. And I see that year, for me, I'm very limited on what I can talk about, but I see that year was my year of real growth as an individual, because I still lived at home when I was at Surrey, so I hadn't really moved out into student halls or anything like that. So I see that year was going away as a boy and coming back as a man. That was the real transition of independence, confidence, living in London again. Similar to when I was at Claridge's, and I had a flat in the Royal Mews when I was there. So my bedroom view was overlooking the Goring Hotel, which was nice, waking up to that every morning. Yeah. And I think the 2 big things that happened in that year was the royal wedding for William and Catherine.
Yeah.
So I was part of that, and I still have the wedding cake at home, which was a gift from them, and the program of the ceremony from Westminster Abbey. So that's mementos to keep for the future. And also I got to meet the then president of the USA, which was Barack Obama.
Brilliant.
Wow. Do you know what I have to say? I think I would have just stopped at that point because I'm done. Doesn't get any better. Yeah.
We could spend this entire session just grilling you about the royal household.
So it really was a fabulous year. and I worked in two departments. I worked in housekeeping, where I grew up to assistant housekeeper. So I was helping to look after a team and support a team of 26, and also what they call the footman's team, or G branch, as they call it, general branch, which is all of the butlering, food service, operations, and general household duties.
Yeah.
So it was good to get some real base knowledge, lots of practical skills and experience, having some basic supervisory knowledge as well, to take with me from my final year of my studies at university. And I was really able to apply all of that really, really good experience and the knowledge that I'd learned from so many different people in that one building, and obviously traveling all over the country with the family as well, that I could apply that to my final year of study.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most important thing I think about going to university for me was, yes, you make friends, and I've got some lifelong friends from university. You get that theoretical baseline knowledge to take with you throughout your career. But I think, especially from me in my sector, and hospitality, you need to have that experience, and you need to have that practical skill set to be able to apply that. It makes the theory so much more better to understand. Yeah. So I think for anyone going to university,
I think it's a massive bonus as well, isn't it? Coming out with the degree and the year's placement is so much more valuable. Yeah.
And I think it's great going to university, and I don't knock it at all. I mean, I think if I look back now, would I go back to university if I was 18 again? Probably not, because of the fees, and also what I've seen in terms of my career now. I think I could have still got to my position without having my degree.
Do you think apprenticeship, if apprenticeships had been more, because there's obviously a lot of focus on apprenticeships right now, and there's the levy and all of that sort of thing. Do you think if that had been more at the forefront there, that might have been something you thought about, or do you not?
Absolutely, because I know obviously lots of universities doing these degree apprenticeships now as well, and I think if it had been a level 5, 6, 7 apprenticeship, absolutely I would have done it. And I think they're going to become much more valuable as time goes on. And I'll talk about it now, but I was going to mention it later on. Over the last couple of years, I was appointed as a government advisor to the PM and to the Cabinet Office and for the Department of Education, to really look at the T-level vocational qualifications for young people, for that 16 to 19-year-old and beyond. And that panel looked at, I was on the panel for hospitality, management and business. And for the 20 people that were sitting around those meetings every month, we all said that, vocational and practical experience is the way forward. Really combine that apprenticeship sort of way of learning, rather than sitting in a lecture for 3 hours at a time to learn something. You've got to have that real strong balance. And not everyone is academic. I came out with very average GCSEs and didn't really like sitting in a classroom environment. And I've fallen into a career that I absolutely love, because it is very hands-on, it is very practical, and there's lots of different avenues that you can go down and explore. So I think, going forward, I think the way is much more vocational and practical experience.
I've mentioned in a previous podcast, I'm dyslexic, and I actually trained to be a solicitor, and that was incredibly difficult as somebody with dyslexia. And now they're looking at, you can now train to be a lawyer without having to go through that same level of academic. And if I had that choice, I think that would have made a massive difference to my experiences going through that process.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I don't believe I'm stupid. I don't know, on occasion I don't, but I'm just, the academic side of it was just that little bit harder for me because of that. And I think, different choices when I was younger might have led into very different ways of doing things.
Yeah. And one of the things I've had to battle all of my life is that I'm profoundly deaf in my left ear. Not many people know that I'm deaf in my, I've got no hearing this side, and I've got about 30% here, which is bolstered by a hearing aid. So back when I was at school and college, the technology wasn't great in terms of being supported by having something to support in a classroom environment. And I was very lucky at university. I had a note taker to support in those really big environments. So that's been something I've had to really work with and deal with as well as I've got older and moved forward in my career. But it's something I've never let it hold me back at all. I've always been very confident in just getting on with it.
Brilliant.
So,
and doing quite well as by the sounds of it. You're at the wedding of the year, like the century. I mean, it could.
So after I graduated in 2012 with a first class degree from Surrey in hospitality management, and I went to join Elite Hotels, which was a country house group, which is where I know Lucy from.
That's where we met.
So I joined their graduate programme and worked around the 4 properties in the south east. So I've got one in Sussex, one in Hertfordshire, and a couple in Hampshire. And after the graduate programme, I was based at Tilney Hall in Hampshire. Started off as an assistant manager for rooms. So worked on lots of rooms projects and lots of duty management, supporting other departments. And then I took over as reception manager for just over a year back in 2014. So that was I wanted to go into country house hotels first to see if I liked it and if I wanted to really see a long-term career in country properties. And then after a couple of years with the group, I decided that no, I want to go back to London. There's always that attraction from being at Claridge's back at the age of 16, 17. I've always wanted to go back into London and make a name for myself in the city. So I went back to London in 2015, back end of 2015, and I joined Rocco Forte Hotels, which is owned and managed by Sir Rocco Forte and the family. And I've been based at Browns in Mayfair now for just over 5.5 years. So a long time, a lot longer than I thought I was going to be here, and had some very good promotion over those 5 years. So I've had 4 promotions in 5 years. Started off as a duty manager, and then worked up through front office. So assistant FOM in 2017, reception manager 2018, and then now to front of house manager 2 years ago. So that's where I'm currently sitting.
Brilliant. And what do you see in your future?
My ultimate goal would be to go back to where it all began. I'll go back to Claridge's again, and to be the GM, to be the general manager of Claridge's. That's my ultimate goal.
It's very specific and very inspirational.
I've always wanted to run that hotel. It's been a huge passion and a dream, I think, from a very young age to look after and be the custodian of that property. I think probably because I have got a close tie to it from a very young age. And I don't want to move there at the moment into another role, because there have been opportunities that have arisen to move across to join that property away from Rocco Forte and have a look at a change of property with another group. But I wanted to leave it because I think that's the last piece of the jigsaw. So and that has been a dream from a young age, especially after coming out of the kitchens at Claridge's and going more into front of house and now into senior management, which I would see myself in now as looking after deputising for the MD and for the hotel manager, looking after the operation of Browns. I see that's where I want to end up. And if it's not Claridge's, then I'm sure it'll be another really nice 5-star hotel in London or around the world.
And we will be very happy to come and support you when you're
there. Yeah, of course.
Taking on for the team.
You can be my HR advisors.
We'll work for cake.
Pastry, cinnamon bun, anything.
All the way.
I'm interested to know what your most challenging career moment has been.
I think I had to really think about this a lot, actually, when I was was thinking back at some really horrible guest experiences and some horrible people that I've had to look after over my career. But I think if I have to take one thing that's really would stand out at the moment, I think it has to be COVID. Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people would probably say the same. I mean, I was very fortunate that I was, and I had to really fight quite hard to be on the skeleton team looking after the hotel last year. So I had to almost like interview myself to be part of that team to look after the property over the last year. And there's only been 8 of us that have been in the building looking after it. We opened the hotel back in September for a couple of months, and we had a few long stay guests from September, October through to Christmas, obviously when we had to close again. But it's been quite a challenge in the sense that I haven't just done my role. I've done probably pretty much every role there is in the hotel over the last year, which has been an eye-opening experience, and at all levels, you know, from the most junior person in a department to looking after the team. But I think the most challenging thing has been going through the redundancy process as well, and having to make some very loyal and committed and long-serving team members have to go through that redundancy process. I find that quite professionally hard, but very personally, emotionally draining at the same time. So, and I think we're going through. We've got through that period now, and we've got to look forward, and we've obviously made things a lot more efficient and in the way that things are currently with the business levels. But I've never experienced going through a consultation period before, and having to lead it for be the one for the department has to choose ultimately who goes, and make, I think it was just over 120,000 I had to save in terms of payroll costs for the team, which, so I had a team of 16 before COVID, and it's now down to 10. So I think COVID has its positives, lots of TV and things in the beginning, and watching lots of Netflix and The Crown and everything else, and really been able to focus a lot on projects that I've wanted to be doing for a while, updating training plans and rewriting induction programs and updating a lot of the admin and the paperwork that we never really get the chance to do properly, and put together a whole new welcome pack for not just for reception, but for the hotel to make people a lot more feel welcome and included when they start. But as the time's gone on through the year, it's been very wavy. So I think we'll all look back at this in 10, 20 years time, and there'll be lots of things that we take from it that have been positive and negative, and what did we do back then? But no one could have ever prepared us for what we've gone through in business.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been incredibly tough year, well, for a lot of businesses, but particularly, travel, hospitality, leisure, really hard. So on the flip side, what would you say has been your sort of career high moment?
My career high.
Has there been one?
Yeah, there has. I mean, I had obviously I've worked very hard to get to where I believe I am today. And I think a lot of that comes through dedication and commitment. And I always talk to lots of colleagues about putting in the hours, and because hospitality is not the way I see it, from an operational perspective, is not a Monday to Friday 9 to 5 job. That's not what I do. I mean, this morning I was up at 5:30. I was down with my team at 6:30 for some training, and I'll be finishing about 8, 9 o'clock this evening, because that's what I like to do. It's not I have to do that. It's because I'm so passionate about what I do and the team that I look after and care for, and the building and the hotel. It's what I love to do. But I think the flip side of the challenge has to be the reward, I think. And back in 2019, I was nominated for a Hotel Katie, which is seen as the Oscars of the industry, and the caterer look after awards for food service in contract catering and hotels and restaurants and lots of different sectors. So I was nominated in November 2019 for Front of House Manager of the Year for the UK, and wasn't really expecting to win. And then had a nice black tie dinner at I think it was Park Plaza on the Westminster Bridge, in front of 800 people just before COVID. Yeah, probably looking back then, but should that have gone ahead? Not sure. Yeah, so I won Front of House Manager of the Year, which is, for me, was probably the highlight of my career to date.
Have you got an award hanging around you can show us, like a statuette or?
It's actually at home in my. I should have brought it in.
It's sitting there during the entire session. So, by the way, did I mention?
You might be able to find a photo and stick it on the end of this recording.
Yeah. That's amazing. I mean, that's
been amazing just to be recognised externally for what you've been doing. That must feel just amazing.
Yeah, and I think I mean, as I said, I wasn't expecting to win because it just wasn't, and I think a lot of it had been, the nomination was down to a lot of the team feedback from the year, guest feedback, and also what I've done a lot more for charities, and I think the government role probably played a part in that as well, and the extra stuff that I've done outside of the job. So it was a very nice. It was a nice evening. I can't really remember much of it past about 10 o'clock.
A very good evening.
But I just remember waking. I didn't even manage to get to bed. I remember waking up on the sofa the next morning, and dinner suit still on, and the trophy was on the floor. So that was a good
as
win.
It should be.
Yeah. So, but I think that the other great thing about my career and the journey that I've had has been the people that I've had to support me along the way. And having success is brilliant, but you don't do it on your own in this industry, and you do it with having a very good mentor. You have it having a very good team around you, and you obviously have to build and look after that team, because you're only as good as yourself, and an inspection report is only as good as you are at that given point in time. So I think certainly this is very much a people industry, and this last year has pulled people together, and it's taught us, I think, as a hotel, as a company, and certainly from where I sit and stand every day, it's taught me to be a lot more inclusive and spend a bit more time just asking people how they are, and because we get so wrapped up in the day and the business and the operation, and it's really about now people's mental health, about really just taking the time to look after people and be kind to people, which I've always done, but obviously just to spend that little bit more time really making them feel included and part of that overall success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, brilliant.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, we're recording this during Mental Health Awareness Week, although it'll be a couple of weeks comes out, and I think that thing about the kindness and just asking that question, how are you, it has taken on a meaning. I think I think a lot of people like yourselves, it's something you probably always have done, but suddenly it's got that deeper meaning because we know it's been such a tough time.
Yeah, and I think going forward, when obviously we have got a much more reduced team now, so communication and the working together has got to be is absolutely paramount and vital, and we're going to have to talk to each other a lot more, and jump into departments where they need support, and whether it's busy breakfast or you've got a function for 50 people and you need to run plates upstairs, or housekeeping need someone to strip the beds. We've got to, and I think by focusing on that team spirit and those individual personalities, and really regrouping and having a good understanding of their strengths and their weaknesses and their skill sets, much more now is going to play more dividend in the future. And they'll be able to pass it on, and hopefully we'll help them to grow and develop and go up the ladder as well, because that's ultimately what I want to see that younger talent that I was years ago coming and climbing through the ranks as well, which has been lovely to see. And I've got some good some good success stories of people who have been with me for 3, 4, almost 5 years, just behind me, that are still with me now, because they've had that support, they've had that nurture, they've been given promotion and projects to succeed, and I've kept them engaged, which is critically important.
Brilliant.
So, I feel like there's like, as an HR person, you kind of, that's kind of in a very nice bubble, the kind of messages we try and give people. So it's lovely to see somebody actually putting that into practice. So that's great.
Yeah, and I think if I'm talking to a younger audience today, if I'm talking to people who are 15, 16, 17, 18, and also to parents as well, who've probably watched a lot of the news and the bad press over the last year about COVID and how much it's had an impact on hospitality, I would say to parents that absolutely hospitality is a career for your child or your children to go into. There are so many different avenues that can be explored, not just, I think when people think about hospitality, they think of always a hotel or a restaurant or a bar, but there are so many other things that you can do that link into hospitality, whether it be a supplier or whether it be a wine merchant, whether it be a cruise ship, whether it anything, contract catering in the NHS. There are a lot of things that that you can do, and lots of different ways that you can grow. And I think I will always be in hospitality certainly for, I can see, a good 10, 20, 30 years. I think I'm going to be all the way through my career, and I've got no plans to change it at all. And yes, the pay is not always what it's, what it should be or what it's cracked up to be, but it's not just always about money. It's about the intrinsic reward that you get and the satisfaction you get from it as well. So, and I know that hospitality has been very hard hit, and businesses have had to really suffer. But if I was a parent, or I'm talking to a parent today to send my child to a college in to be a chef, or to go into front of house and go to university and study it, yes, absolutely, go and do it. Because I think if you're gonna, I just really am passionate about getting this message across, that do not diss hospitality. It's, everyone's going to want to go out for a meal, everyone wants to still want to go away, whether it's UK or abroad, and we need those people to to support the industry. And Brexit has obviously had a big impact on especially the working visas and the issues around that, and we need the good old British individuals to join hospitality, sign up and have a good go at it.
Brilliant. So I feel like you should be out there a bit advocating. I feel like there's another role for you to do in terms of becoming the spokesperson, because I think when you've got someone who's as passionate about it as you, it really does resonate. And I'm thinking, yeah. And I mean, I work with a venue separately in my other life, and they've really struggled, but they still love what they do. They're not a hotel, they're a venue, and it's a beautiful place, and they're really passionate and they love what they do as well. And it's great to see that's not just them, and as you said, there's a future in this. People have confidence there's a future.
Absolutely.
A little secret I tell you, my nickname at the hotel is Churchill.
Oh, do tell.
So I was given that name by a lady called Brenda, who sadly we lost through the redundancy last year, and she was and still very much is in that halo effect, is that she's the queen of the hotel, and she would always come up with nicknames for people, and so she gave me the nickname of Churchill, or Lord Churchill it was at the time, but the Lord's been dropped now. So because I'm very much a person who just gets on with it, gets things done, very, I suppose, they like to see me as a very spokesperson-like individual. So I think everyone's gunning for me to be the next PM as well.
I'll vote for you.
So that's stuck, and even the fact, like the Roccaforte family. I mean, Charles, who's Sirocco's son, he sometimes walks into the lobby and walks past receptions. They're all "Afternoon, Churchill."
Well, that's it.
So it's gone
great.
the whole group.
So. That's great.
Yeah.
And Alex, have you got any final thoughts or anything you'd like to share from your experience so far?
I think if I was looking at tips to give people, I think if I'm talking more generic now, and the way I've reflected a lot over the last 12 months, because we have now to really have that time to think and reflect. And obviously I talk from a hospitality background, but obviously I think this applies to any industry or any business you want to go to. I think first thing is to be yourself and be completely natural about the way that you join a company, and they'll employ you based on, and it should be obviously based on your skills and your abilities, but I think personality is a very big thing, and very much more so over the last year, and it's allowed people to grow in their professional self and their personal self as well. So I think being natural and being confident on who you are as a person is probably the first tip, and not change who you are and what you stand for. I think be very dedicated and committed to what you're doing, whether that be at work or your any personal endeavor. I mean, I've taken up a lot of new things over the last year, especially running and exercising. So I'm very passionate about running at the moment. So I'm really sticking to that. So I'm committed to it. And I think the last thing for me is to really, in any business that you work for, whether it be a hotel, whether it be an office building, whether it working for the NHS, it's in itself, it's just a building and a name. And I think it's really the key is about people, and how you look after those people, how you nurture them, how you make them feel welcome. And I think over the last year, it's taught a lot of people to be more kind, and really value what they contribute to that business. Because people can go very quickly, and if you don't look after them, they'll move on to something else. So I think the element of people in every business, and the way you approach them and look after them and support them, is going to be very critical to going forward. So yeah, just be kind and be nice. And I think the last thing I'd say is just, if you don't want to go into hospitality, that's fine. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it, but I think I think if as long as you enjoy what you do, and you have fun with things, and have a good laugh. I mean, I have so many laughs and jokes at where I all through my career and at the hotel now, but really do something that makes you smile and makes you want to put in the hours and want to work hard. And if you don't enjoy it, then find something completely different that you do want to do, because at the end of the day, we're only on this planet once.
Brilliant.
That we know of.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, listen, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been really, really interesting to hear about your journey, and obviously to hear your hints and tips as well.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alex.
Okay.